Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Gainer Gossip. I am Pluto, and with me as always is.
Hey guys, it's Jenny here.
Today we have one of my friends in the community who joined us. He is like the lead runner of Nat20 Productions, and most importantly to me and Jenny, he was Chester and our Vampire the Masquerade Boston After Dark game that I ran back a little bit ago on my channel. But PJ, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
Hello, everyone. My name is PJ. I am the CEO and creative director of Nat20 Productions, and as well as the GM for the shows on the channel. And as Pluto said, I met them during Vampire the Masquerade, the Boston by Night, Boston After
Boston
Dark.
After Dark. Yep.
My brain, I
I wanted the
swear.
initials to spell bad, PJ. Okay.
Right, it's bad. Be it Boston
Oh,
After Dark. Got it.
Which bad is the description because that thing went completely off the rails and I loved it.
I love that
Um,
game. I loved
it
PJ's
was
character.
a mix of Riverdale and Bud's Bunny and a massive Norse vampire hunter and Stacy's
Mhm.
mom. Oh, and David was there too.
Oh, and David was there too.
David was the only normal one in the group.
I just want to say thank you to the patience of everyone. I have been both a player and a GM when you have a chaos goblin at your table, and it can be equal parts fun and refreshing, and
Mhm.
sometimes frustrating and stressful because it's like, oh God, we're trying to do one thing. Why are you getting a tanker truck full of Baja Blast Mountain Dew, petroleum, silver nitrate to make a Baja Blast flamethrower to kill werewolves? I'm like, well, can't do it in real life, so I'm going to be the schmuck who does it here. Here we
I
go.
feel like in general, GMs when they get to play are the worst Chaos Goblins ever. Because like I have all this pent up people fucking with me for my games. I'm gonna return the favor.
I got all this
And the
pent up
pie.
just chaosium, and I have to put it into something because I can't do anything
Yep.
like too chaotic because then I risk ruining the game for my players. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a community game this week with Nate from TIO running it, and I think we're supposed to be doing a heist. I don't know. I didn't really the synopsis of it. I just wanted to play D&D, but I made an armor artificer person, so they're pretty tanky. They're really good mechanically, but they're a mad scientist muscle mommy uwu girl.
I love everything you just said. I love
It's
all those
gonna
things.
be it's gonna be amazing because they're gonna be
You
super smart, but they're gonna have this personality that's gonna be like so fucking chaotic.
you give me like a 5'7" to 6'1" gorgeous, like busty, buff, badass babe who's also like, I will tell you what we must do. And sometimes that means I need cuddles. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Here's a ring. We're married now.
Yeah,
Let's go save the world
it's
together.
gonna be amazing. I'm so ready to derail him. I think everyone's making chaos gremlins in that game because it's Nate and we all want to fuck with Nate. So it's gonna be interesting.
Oh, and you guys forgot to mention the pies that Chester had with the
the
snakes.
the random the
Yeah,
random pies and snakes at the college
that was
party, or the
amazing.
Buds Bunny portal that he had that we stuffed werewolf
Yes,
bodies in because why not? It was a
Mm-hmm,
yes.
mm-hmm.
lot.
Yeah, I wanted to have a character loosely based off Bugs Bunny because it was my first time ever playing a Malkavian, and I thought it'd be interesting to
Mm-hmm.
have like their psychosis be hallucinations that then turned into almost this hunt for Elysium. If I can get to the center of all the holes and all the world, then I can find peace in my madness.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be cool to have this like person who like psychotically turns into a prankster
Mm-hmm.
based off Bugs Bunny,
Yeah.
and then I just flandrized myself real hard, and he just became a violent psychopath Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, I loved it because like you all had like a
Basically.
you all were working for this Baron, but you could tell that you were like pulled there because everyone's characters had such wildly different motivations to
Yeah.
each other.
Yes.
One was a gang leader, one was just cracked, one was a cannibalistic werewolf, like broken combat character. I was not expecting Justice character to kill 6 werewolves in one session. That was insane.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about
We had an entertainer who's all just trying to get a band together, and then we had our naive college professor who was seduced by the cougar mage that I threw in there. So like it was such different storylines. I don't know how the hell we wrapped that all
that.
together, but it worked.
It was awesome. It was fun.
Yeah, that was definitely great. But yeah, let's get into it, I guess. So when did you start playing tabletops? Did you and then I know you're obviously the huge Pathfinder person. Did you start with Pathfinder? Did you like run a D&D like most people do? And like kind of what was the like trajectory to like just now running all these Pathfinder games that you do on Nat20?
Yeah, so when I first started playing tabletop, because like when you're a kid and you don't know what these are and you don't really have any resources, you just kind of basically play a verbal choose your own adventure book in real
Mm-hmm.
life.
Yeah.
So we fooled around with that for like a long time, but it was just kind of aimless. Um, First ever tabletop game was D&D 4th edition back in
Okay.
like 2008. And that went badly because I didn't know anything. My character died my very first game, but like it was heroic sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, yeah, I started playing everything like AD&D 2nd edition first. I started playing the hero system, which was a headache, and I'm trying to think of other ones I did back out east when I was doing this stuff. Like I was just trying new games constantly,
Mm-hmm.
even into like up into like 2018, 2019, just before we started pre-production for the channel in our very first show. So yeah, I've been doing it now for 15 years, GMing most of all of that.
Nice. Yeah,
That's
that's
amazing.
it's a long time. Like I only fell into this like right before COVID, honestly. It just kind of snowballed into having too much time on my hands and getting into streaming, and then now here I am running way too many games than I have time to run. Which I feel like you understand. Once you run something, it's kind of hard to play. Like very occasionally, I'll pop in a game. Like I'm so glad I have the Power Rangers game right now because that's a consistent game that I'm playing in as a player, and that has like no definite end date. It's like if I have for sure 2 days a month that I can just play. So yeah, those opportunities are so I think far in between once you're running stuff, and your campaigns are not small. Like they're pretty massive. I don't even try to catch up. I just tune in when I can. I didn't understand any of the context, but I just watch bits and pieces of it.
I hear that a lot too. Like, wow, your campaigns are very long, and I'm like, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, Critical Role has one season is
Hmm.
approximately 140
I've
episodes.
a
For
hundred percent
Wow.
given up on ever catching up on
yeah,
Critical Role. I started campaign 3, missed 2 weeks, and I was like, "Well, that's 10 hours. I don't have time to catch up now."
exactly.
But I
And
think, oh,
mm,
sorry, go ahead, PJ.
no, no, please, Jenny, I'm stepping on your toes.
No, you're good. I was gonna say, I think it's really cool though that you've been passionate about that and been doing it for so long. Like it's kind of like with my acting, like it's always been something I've been passionate about. So I love that like you've been doing it and you've kind of tested out all the systems and like kind of seen different things. Like, and I'm sorry, Pluto, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but this is a
Oh, you're
question
good.
based off of that question. Like, because you've done so many systems, like which one do you find to be your favorite one now?
Ooh, that's very hard to say because, like,
Besides Pathfinder.
yeah, I
Yeah,
love,
besides
That's just the
I love,
obvious answer. So give us a
well,
different thing besides
obviously
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder. I will say this: I love Pathfinder 2e. I love it because I
Hmm.
think that it gives options that we are missing in the other big D20 game, and I
Hmm.
think it allows for creativity, way more customization, way more involvement, and it rewards role play with feats and abilities. So even
Hmm.
if you don't know you can do something, here it
yeah,
is in bold plain text. Yes, you can. Um, and I love that system. But if I had to go outside that wheelhouse and start choosing other systems, obviously, and Nate from TO will tell you, I love doing Cyberpunk again, especially Cyberpunk Red. I think they
Oh,
turned
that was so
Cyberpunk
much.
20.
That was so much fun.
It was so much fun.
you guys did
I
so
loved
good
it.
on that, both of you.
I mean, the only thing I really did was flirt with the bartender for like half an hour, where everyone was gassing me up in our personal chat like the whole time.
I mean, look, the only thing I did was bad Swedish theater, and then I just got on a headshot roll where I was like, I killed that bad guy, but I'm the solo. It's my job. One system that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, besides the Dragon Age tabletop RPG, which I recommend,
I have the book; it's on my list.
I gotta recommend it, especially if you like the video games. But there's this one system that is from the Fantasy Flight books, based off of the Warhammer 40K war games, and instead
Okay.
of being a war game, it's a TTRPG. And what I like about it is that it is a D100 system, and you have to roll under like your stat score on a scale of 1 to 100. And what I
Okay.
like about it is it's not you versus the enemy. It's not you versus the GM. Even though you're getting into combat, even though you're fighting traps and magical spells, it's you versus yourself.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
when you're rolling against your own scores, your own stats. So there's no question if you hit or miss. There's no question if you're successful. You know, you control the variables, and your success can literally be measured on
Hmm.
a scale of 1 to possible 100 without any doubt as to your, you know, the variability of that. And I love that because like it makes things faster, it puts way more agency on the player, and it's still with the reactions and different combat tactics still forces them to game and think, and still gives
Hmm.
the GM their own agency to game and think, because they have to roll against
yeah.
their own characters when they're going combat, things like that. And I just think it's such a fun twist on the basic dice rolling part of the game.
Yeah, I really
That's
love that
really
system.
cool.
Like Cthulhu does that same type of system. I think it is that same system pretty much, like the base of it. And
Oh,
like
really?
what's that? Salt and Serpent right now, Pencil Circus, that's what they're using. They're using the basic role playing system, like the base mechanics of that D100 system. And like I really love it because you can really specialize like really intensely how good your chances are going to be in everything that you can do. And there's so many
I
ways
like
to
that.
mod it and make it fit like your campaign. So like it's definitely a lot less like player versus GM mentality. And like even in games where that is a present, like D&D and Pathfinder and stuff like that, like I always hate that mentality where players are just trying to beat the GM. I love when it like sure, like I don't want my players to die when I run games like that unless it's specifically a deadly campaign. I'm not gonna go 100% out of my way to try to kill you. Like I'm going to come at you with their capabilities of whatever I'm running, and if you die, it's either because of the dice roll, or you did something stupid, or the
Yeah.
mechanics of it. So,
It all comes down into the yes and that I think this community has been talking about for at least a year, if not more now. But I
mm-hmm,
think the thing that we are forgetting about yes and is that it's literally any variable. It's not
exactly.
just a player, it's not just the GM, it's also the dice. You have to yes and the dice.
Yeah.
And people don't think that because they want the power escape. They want the power fantasy. And the dice are saying, yes, and what if you don't succeed? What can you do now? And and that can be frustrating when you want something to get done. Um, but it's still something up to yes and I don't and piggybacking off what you were saying, Pluto, we don't want to ruin our players. We want them to yes and what we're doing so that
Mm-hmm.
we can yes and them back. And I've
Yeah.
played with players who refused to yes and the GM. They just wanted their plan to work stubbornly. And when it wouldn't work mechanically, they made that my fault. I'm like, those are the dice, that's fate, and that's you, my guy. That's not
Mm-hmm.
that's not my fault. I can only do so much for
Yeah,
Yeah,
you.
yeah. You
that's
can't,
true.
if you just give them all they want, though, and there's like no chance of failure, then it's not really fun at the end of the day. And it's not like, well, what am I going to do? Just throw the most overpowered thing at you then to make it kind of balanced? Because like if you're just getting you decide you want to do something and just let it work every time, it's like there's no fun to that, and you're taking away from the other players too at the table who might want to do some cool stuff, but you're just doing some broken thing you thought of on the spot. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's just got to have that collaborative like improv off each other for sure. Like I don't even honestly plan out. Like I plan out a very loose plot thread now in games. I have an endpoint. I have the bad guy and their motivations. Everything else is completely off of what the players do. Do
Yeah.
you think I expected any of that shit in that vampire game to happen? Like I just yes and that. I yes and that whole fucking campaign. I did not
The int-
expect any of that to
I don't even
happen.
think we knew like what we were
I did like
doing.
20, 30 variations of Riverdale characters and actor names for your
Yes.
gang that
Mhm.
without being like just straight up naming the characters of the show.
But the
Yeah.
Oh my
entire
god.
time, oh, I'm sorry, Jenny, you were gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, that was really cool, like how you did that, because then we used like some of the characters, but also the actors that played those same characters. So it was like duplicate people we were using.
Yeah, didn't we
And
kill
it
the
was
one
funny.
character and then bring his twin in, and he was just like a different
Yeah,
variation
yeah,
of the
yeah.
same
So you
person, like their
Was that
yeah,
name?
like CJ and KJ or something?
No, it
Or
wasn't KJ
no.
because KJ was the one that got turned.
Yeah.
right, right,
It was
right.
Reggie
it
and
was Reggie
Charles.
and Charles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
That was
yeah.
funny because we were like, oh, his twin brother Charles is much better than
Reggie's dead, and here comes Beggie.
If Charles would have died, I totally would have named just another character Charles Melton's played to just continue the bit. I would have looked up his character in the Bad Boys 4 or whatever it was that he played and just
Oh
kept
yeah.
going with it.
No, but PJ's right. That's something I actually never thought about until PJ said that. Like, because PJ, I always, in a joking way, obviously, blame Pluto for my one character that I played on the one campaign. I played Thomas. He was like basically an egotistical snob. His family was rich. Well, Pluto killed Thomas's like whole family, but I rolled for it. Like I missed the rolls. So technically, I mean, you're right. Like if I would have succeeded those roles, then the family would have lived. Because I'm always blaming Pluto. I'm like, you got them to connect
I
and
gave
literally
you
like
a
get along,
chance.
and then
Yeah.
you killed them
The
all.
one that you reconciled, he was dying. That was the thing. I was like, okay, you don't care about him. Cool. Let's get a heartfelt scene before this big thing that I know where everybody's going to die at. Just
But
to
if I
just
would have,
to make you motivated to chase down his killer, and it
but if I
worked.
would have rolled good, you wouldn't have been able to kill him.
No, he was the one you rolled for. You rolled for your siblings and your other
Oh,
dad.
that's right. So
You
you
did
still
not roll
killed
for him. He got hit directly in the throat. But
It
you
is
got
Pluto's
but you
fault
did
then.
get to save Khalid, and I
Yeah,
think you
I did.
saved your sister.
Yeah.
So you did get a couple of them saved.
But
I mean,
I'm never
you
creating a big family like that again.
she
When I
gave
play,
me
just
she
kill them
was
all.
one of 7 siblings, had a full staff and 2 dads. I'm like,
Damn.
that's a
Yeah.
lot of room to work with. I have a lot of players to mess with.
Hey, let me tell you though, that can be a blessing in disguise if you're ready to get deep into it. 'Cause, like taking it back to Cyberpunk, when I was doing 2020 with some friends years before any of this stuff kicked off,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying so hard to get the character creation down right, and I didn't know that there are pages of just optional backstory roll for fluff. And so I'm doing it thinking it's mandatory, and I'm rolling crazy numbers. And it turns out that I have this corpo who's like a son of a corporate family who died in a horrible hostage takeover or a hostile takeover. And I rolled that he had 6 siblings.
Wow.
And then I had to start planning out where the hell these 6 siblings are and who was involved in the I made this massive, like, gun violent corporate war where a family was literally murdered and torn apart. And I had 6 alts.
Oh,
So every time something happened, I had a literal character with a backstory already known to me. I could pull out of place and go, oh, this is Sophie. She's the cop. She saw the corruption of corporate greed and decided to go, join the police. Bam.
oh,
This is
awesome.
the older brother who everyone thought dead, but he became a solo for the mafia and he hides his true identity. Like I was just pulling from it. It's unintentional, but it can make
awesome.
good stuff happen.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love that.
I always, as a player, try to map out my backstory a shit ton because I know as a GM, it's so good to have because then you can actually build plot around the characters and get them more involved. So I'm like, when I play, I'm like, yeah, bring all the trauma on. Like for the Power Rangers, I was like, I want to be Tommy's nephew. Deal with all that trauma that comes from being the relative of the greatest Power Ranger of all time. As soon as he finds out that Tommy was a Power Ranger, yeah, just give that all to me. Let's just roll with that. And Will's been traumatizing the fuck out of my character the first
Hell
say 4
yeah.
or 5 episodes.
I'll have to watch
Hell
that
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. My character is just the typical jock, so literally carries a bag like a gym background with him everywhere. Just I
Really
think I had it.
bad.
I think I just had him. I think I had him do a scoop of pre-workout like the before a battle or some shit.
Is
And
he
his
like
whole
a dad type character? Like
no, he's not that bad. They are technically non-binary. They're he they, so they are a little more cultured of a jock, but they still fit a lot of those jock stereotypes. And I love playing with it, playing with that development of
Nice.
it. And his whole fighting style is just punch and grapple on the stuff. So the first enemy that turned huge, we didn't have our Zords. We were just killing time until someone saved us. I jumped on the side of it. I didn't give a fuck. I'd launched up, then a Power Ranger dive, and I'm just my fist weapon has like a grapple mechanic, so I just punched it in the side and just was hanging there with my fist like off the side of this 20-foot monster.
That's actually an interesting question. Like I have all these questions in my head to ask PJ. I know you don't have any questions, babe. I was gonna ask PJ
No, you're good.
like what has been your because I'm so interested. Like, what has been your favorite character that you've ever played? And I know you played so many characters, so this question is like so hard, probably. But I'm just curious.
I'm gonna add to that too. What's your favorite NPC you've also played? Because I
Oh.
know you've played way more of those.
Yo, this is so tough because like trying to find a character I love playing. Okay, I got one. Character I love playing. This is not surprising. I love history, and I love builds that are kind of based in history. I thought I was like kind of smart, like, hey, no one knows I'm making this reference. There is a character that I built in both a D&D 5e fundraiser and Pathfinder 2e fundraiser, based off of a guy named Audie Murphy. And if you know who Audie Murphy is, it's an insane story. He joined World War II as a lieutenant at the age of like 16, 17, fought in three different countries, earned every single medal, like award medal in America and French military that you could win. He's insane. Comes back from the war, becomes a movie star, kicks the worst like antidepressant opioid addiction you can get at the time,
Mhm.
and continues making movies, retires, blah blah blah. So that makes an amazing hero.
Yeah.
So I had that as a character for both of those in different ways. One was a pill popping paladin,
Nice.
because to focus on the addiction that he struggled with, and the other one was like a 16-year-old like hunter trapper sniper kid named Murph, who was dealing with the anger issues he had from all like the trauma of being the oldest, like the man of the house at 15 and having to go off to war and paying his family. So that was the favorite character I had to play. A lot of drama, a lot of personality, a lot of ways to incorporate things into it. Also, the person I'm based off was an actual poet. One of the things he wrote this book, like the crosses grow on Nunzio, which is a hill in Italy that he served at, and I used some of those lines as like a sniper's prayer as Murph, this like 15-year-old dwarf kid, was trying to guide his sight. Now,
I
my
love
favorite, it's a lot of fun to play characters that have this deep emotional core to their
Mhm.
narrative.
Yeah.
And sometimes we find the best fantasy in reality, as
Right.
unfortunate as that
And I
is.
love history too, so that's really cool.
Yeah. Now, Pluto, to your follow-up, the best NPC, my favorite NPC. All right, I don't know, because like you said, there's hundreds. But the one I think is the most fun because it gets to tap into a part of me that I don't get to talk about a lot. Like, yeah, you'll see it on my social media, me
Mm.
going to the gym, but that's social media. I
What,
don't really get to
you go
talk
to the gym? No.
I see it.
I thought it was natural, dude. I just thought you were naturally that ripped.
Fake natty, bro. I'm tapping roids consto. I'm on gear
From
like
eating
a
all those eggs.
machine. No.
I was just thinking of
um,
Gaston when you said that. I was like, it's from eating all those eggs, all
from
that
eating.
meat and poultry.
I remember I was with my ex and we were talking about that. It's like the amount of cholesterol and protein and calories this man that Gaston would be taking in from eating eggs, to the amount he said, is insane. It's like
That's
Yeah.
63. It's like 6,000 calories a day, over
There's a
3,000 grams of
point where
protein.
AIDS no longer
Yes.
become healthy. Like you pass that line at a certain point.
Yes. Gaston's gonna have like some severe health issues.
He's gonna have really
Yeah.
bad cholesterol and heart issues when he's older.
Yeah, he's gonna have like a stroke, constipation. He's gonna be in a bad way. But jumping off that, so my favorite NPC is a meme that I started in my
Mhm.
own little head
Yeah.
about my gym elf persona. I used to go to the gym with elf ears to kind of be silly and stand out a little bit. Became known as the gym elf at my local gym. So I pulled that character into the world of Edge of Legend and other games, and his name is Curlrelian Long Rep.
Oh, that's awesome. I love the long
I
rep.
hate you so much. That's so bad.
I actually have his backstory written up. I was doing a game with No Nat ones for charity, and I got to play him. And I decided to write his backstory, and I sent it to him. And it's the silliest 2 pages, because it's like, verily he was most meek. He mired great gains from those above and yonder still. Like, it was, I loved
That's
it.
incredible.
That's so funny. I love that so much.
I love that. That
Yeah.
is kind of fun to play that though.
Yeah, it's fun to get to talk about something that, like, yeah, you show people on the internet, but you don't really get to engage with them about it. Like, I don't get to talk about what it's like, the grip on a bench press versus the grip on like an incline, whatever. But then to do it in terms that's almost satirical, downright parodical in fantasy is a
Yeah.
very fun blend of escape and inclusion for me.
Yeah. That is fun.
Yeah,
I
nice.
get that. I really do get that. Because you also do love like working out also. Like it's another kind of like passion of yours. So it's kind of cool to like put the two together and make it into your own little character and like own little world. That's really cool. I like that.
It's always easier to draw on stuff when you bring in stuff that you already have like a good knowledge base on, because then you're not having to like make up a lot of stuff on the fly or like Google stuff or have to like do research beforehand. And when you make characters based off of stuff you already know, it makes it a lot easier. Because NPCs, like half the time, you don't even know what the NPC you need until you need it. So being able
Yeah.
to just make one on the fly based off of stuff you know is a lot easier to do so.
Yeah.
Because
And
you
I
can
think
I
that's,
you never
share?
know.
Can I share something that was embarrassing along these
yeah,
lines, these exact lines? So my first ever Halloween series was coming out on Nat20, and it was the Nightmare of Daltonshire. And there's a big secret and Eldritch Gods and blah blah blah. And there's a part where they're in an insane asylum. And in the insane asylum, there's an old woman who has kind of made a house for herself in her room, and it's like this really beautiful, almost like old Hollywood kind of room, like the
oh,
big, clamshell lights and big armors, lots of
yeah.
costumes and makeup. At the time, I was dating an esthetician. I'm putting that out now because when I had to describe what her makeup palette was like to give the world some, I was like, she's got so much makeup. She's got 2 eyeshadows. And all the femmes in the group were like, 2? PJ, what?
Yeah, I just cringed. I just started getting into makeup, but I know that's bad.
That
Yeah,
made
I'm
me
like, that's
Like,
laugh.
nothing. And I'm like, I don't know makeup stuff. And they're like, you're dating an esthetician. I'm like, she doesn't tell me shit. I don't know.
In your defense though, my friend used to be an esthetician, and they're not as into makeup as they are like massages and hair and stuff. So that's not your fault. Now, if you were dating a makeup artist, I'd be like, PJ, come on now. But it was an esthetician, so it's okay.
I've dated makeup artists too. But then again, they never tell me about work. They never tell me about their science, and I
Yeah.
don't blame them. That's their 9 to 5. Well, I didn't want to sit their boyfriend down and be like, this is a foundation, this is a base. They are not the same.
They are not.
Okay.
I mean,
I love Cliff is like, they're not.
I mean, how do you think I feel being a girl and like I don't even do like eyeliner on myself. I literally just do mascara. And I do love eyeshadow, so I do a lot of eyeshadow. And Pluto's telling me like I'm trying to do their eyeliner for the game, and they're telling me like, oh no, I can do this better. Like, no, like just take it off. And I'm a girl. Like
I was
I
like,
feel like I'm a bit
yeah, I
of
was
a
like,
girl.
gender norms are dead in this apartment. I am learning how to do makeup way better than you by the time I get the hold of this, because you don't use it a lot. You don't really use it a lot. So I was
I'm
like,
into skincare a lot and I'm into like eyeshadow and stuff. But yeah, I never really wore a lot of like foundation and stuff because it breaks out my face really bad. And I've just never really been into it. But Pluto's probably going to learn for their streams makeup better than me because I'm just not that person that knows how to do it very well, truthfully. So I'll tell
Hey,
everyone that.
go off. Skill is skill. Like, I respect that Pluto's putting the effort, and they're like, I got it.
trying.
I got you covered.
Yeah.
I did learn though I
we're
need
all
a ring
trying.
light though, because I did a look the other night for a stream, and I don't have like a lot of light straight on, and it like washed it all out. I was like, oh, I just spent like half an hour doing this, can't even see it at all. I was like, oh, so
Oh,
sad. I was
yeah.
like, no.
Yeah, that's the worst. I know. I felt bad for you because you took so like long doing it, you know, for the stream, and the lighting in these apartments is just horrible, honestly.
We have a lot of overhead lighting in here, and like the lights like to my right here are like adjustable, but they're so high up, I actually need to get like a ladder to adjust them.
You need to get one
So
of the bougie lights I have. I call it a bougie light, but it's like my big light for my videos. My
your
big
big light wouldn't work because I need something that can go on my desk, so that would
Oh,
work.
Well,
I'm
it's
gonna
funny
get
you
like
mention
a
that.
clip-on thing or
It's
something
funny
for
you
my
mention that.
monitor.
Let me ruin my lighting a little bit. I have a desk ring light, so it's kind of like Jenny's bougie one, but it's a lot smaller, and it's got like, I'm just gonna move in here. See, it's got like a little
Yep,
tripod
that's kind
leg.
of what I need to get.
oh
I
yeah.
want to get one like that, but the one that's clippable, so I can just put it on my monitor. Because I do not have a lot of desk room. I have
That's a
way
good
Oh,
too
point.
many.
that's
I
true.
have like
Oh.
10 magic decks in front of me, and some of my pop figures and my dice and all my other shit laid around my desk right now. Do not have the room for anything more.
It's right. I have a mini green screen, which I can put on the chair, which doesn't fit anyway. I got the mini green screen. I have my mic set up in case I have to like move the mic somewhere. I have all my notes because I'm a Luddite and I have to write my shit down when I'm prepping for the 3 shows I'm in production for. I have my gym bag come on. And somewhere on this desk, I have Kermit the Frog hiding because he's a
Dude,
Oh,
coward.
I totally get
nice.
it. Like my notes,
Awesome.
these are all different campaigns. There's no order. at all. It's just, so I did buy for like the larger campaign coming up and some other ones that are more regular. I did buy a 5 like section notebook, so I can kind of try to section my notes off now. But I have to write shit down. I just cannot like type up notes at all because like in the
Yeah,
game it's just another window I have to deal with, and I'm not about that. So I already have.
exactly.
Yeah.
I run tech for all my games, even like the games I play in lately. Like I run tech because it's easy for me to do it, and it's just like I can't keep switching over to type shit out while I'm trying to run all this other stuff. It's just so much.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
it's very
curious.
valid.
Yeah, it is. I'm curious because like for me, like I try like so I don't stress myself out, like, having to post the podcast clips and post my own stuff on social media. I kind of have a thing to do to keep myself from like, stressed out and unwind. Like for you, PJ, like being part of like so many things as well and doing so many things, like what do you do? Like obviously this is your passion, like, we all have our passion, but what do you do to kind of just like relax and just like do you watch a movie? Do you read a book? Like what do you do to kind of like have that downtime? Like
That is tough because, like, yeah, the burnout is real, and
I feel that, trust me, but
yeah, and like being a GM, and Pluto can maybe speak to this too. Like the GM job is 24/7 because if you get inspiration, you got to write it down. If there is 1 to 3 shows you're producing, you have to write everything down constantly. You have to find the time to prep, even if it's at like 3 episodes in advance or one massive lore drop. You're always prepping. ABC, always be creating. It is exhausting. As far as how to relax goes, I think at that point, and this is probably gonna sound a lot darker than I intended, it's a lot less about what you can do to relax alone and what is your support network like.
oh yeah,
Because all professional GMs, we need a huge support network because we are doing emotional labor
yeah,
every day, including when we're live. So it really comes down to who's your friends, who's out of the house that you can go to, who's the online buddies that you can talk to and vent or just talk to and not even think about
yeah,
it. Um, so I would recommend for anyone doing this, find a support network that you can be good buds with and just get some return to humanity.
yeah, I
Touch
like
the grass. It's there to be
that.
touched.
Yes, I
I
like that.
mean, that's
I love that.
honestly why I love the initiative order so much. I feel like that has been such a key thing for me the last, is it almost a year already that I've been, holy shit. Almost a year now that I've been in the community, like, and now I'm obviously staff in the community. It's just like such a good community of people. And like, there's so much stuff we do offline in there that like, and we're always chatting and doing all this stuff in the community. It's just like a nice in between going live. Cause even like running the community games, like, GM in an offline game and GM in an online game are two completely different animals. Like you always
Yeah,
have to worry about how you look and like how it's gonna be. Like it's not, you're not just GMing to the party, you're GMing to anyone who watches the podcast or episode or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to be like, okay, how can this be entertaining in a more broad sense while still bringing the party into it as well.
Yeah.
yeah,
So there's always that. But when you're playing offline with your friends, you don't give a fuck. You don't like, oh, you want to go fucking ride that dragon? Go ahead, roll T20. I got this. Let's see what happens. Heck yeah.
Yeah. I
I like
think
that answer that PJ had though, because like I feel like that's also something that I do also is like finding, those people you can trust and rely on and you can kind of like help calm each other down because you need to have good friends, a good support system in your life, to really because if you have toxic friends in your life and people that are stressing you out more, it's not gonna help. You need to be it's not just for relationships like marriage and relationships about friendship too. And like I'm big on friendships. Like I
Mm.
value my friends so much and if they're a good friend like I try to make the time and make sure I show that I care and like because as you said it can be burned out especially like posting videos on social media and you get some hateful comments like oh you're ugly you're cringe you're stupid whatever you can't listen to that because when you put yourself on social media anyway even when you guys are live on the games it's like you may get comments mean comments coming in and it's like you can't like I've gotten mean comments before it's like you can't focus on that but that's why you need those people in your life to help keep you like you said, part of humanity. And also, like, I love going outside and like for walks and stuff and reading and stuff helps. But how you said touch the grass, I love that because I love going outside and like being out in the atmosphere really helps me, like nature and stuff. So,
yeah.
and working out helps too. I love working out.
Yeah, man, let me tell you, the dopamine or the serotonin or the oxytocin, whatever chemical is released through exercise it has really saved a lot of like I'll go to the gym
Yeah.
exhausted and dead tired, and I'll leave going, I feel awake, I feel happy, I feel more centered. Like, am I gonna ramble? Yeah, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
case in point, I'm gonna do that anyway. I might as well
Right.
do that with clarity. Yeah.
Right. Right, because people don't realize, like, this kind of, industry, like D&D, acting, all of its entertainment stuff, like, you do have to be, like, on when you're on. Like how you said you're running the games and how you're GMing, it's like, you're gonna be on camera for these people, or you have to be on with your team. It's like or it's like a scene, it's like acting and acting, they all kinda tie hand in hand. It's like, you have to always have an on face. Even if you're having a down day,
Yeah.
you have to present yourself as hey, I'm not, I can't show this, like I gotta be on it right now. This is what I love. So it's like, you can't, sometimes you have to push in a sad sense, like at least for me, like you're having a depressed day and you gotta do something, you gotta, be on task and then gotta think about your mental health, but later, and sometimes it can be a balancing act and be hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a challenge, and I think because the community is still so insular right now, it's so small. It's big and it's small at the same time that uh like you never know. You never know when something's going to
Yeah.
get personal or crazy or whatever, and then you have to be um you got to put on your customer service face, put on your
Mhm.
service voice
Yeah.
and do the job. Like to what Pluto was saying earlier, there's a huge difference between doing this at home with friends and then doing this online as a show.
Yeah.
Because I think that we need to understand that these are productions, scripted or not. This is
Mhm.
television.
Yep.
And we have to understand that sometimes the marriage between game and production means that we lose one or the other in the
Mhm.
execution of the compromise. And to
Yeah.
be able to return to pure game is a huge part of the balance of the soul. It's not emotional labor, it's reinforcing the
Yeah.
emotional effort at that point.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
makes
because
sense.
when you run it online too, like you have to try to not I want to say you with the railroad, but you do have to steer your players a little bit more because you
Mhm.
do have to get a conclusion to whatever you're running by the end of whatever you're running's length.
Yeah.
While when you're
Mhm.
playing offline, if it ends in a weird way, it ends in a weird way. That's cool. They had fun. That's all you need to worry about. But when you're like
Yeah.
online, like I don't know how Dimension 20 gets it done in 20 episodes, even sometimes with like the way they run some of their campaigns. Brennan's just nuts. Or even worse, like Matt, like fucking 130, 50 episode campaigns, 5 out. That's insane.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know how.
The thoughts that I've because because when we were getting started, I had to do a lot of research on this as a business, and this is like a landscape, and this is why I for Edge of Legends do long show campaigns, and I will be trying to dial them back a little bit, only because I think that there is a fatigue that comes with some of this,
Hmm.
simply because we are all trying so hard to make it a business and a hustle that we are hustling in 9 different places and still doing our day jobs, right? So we're exhausted.
Yeah.
And so that's why I prefer long form, because there is more space to tell better stories and
Hmm.
to do so with room for them to play around instead of being so guided. They get to kind
Yeah.
of goof off, and you get to prep things that are not story, they're not lore, they're not world building. It's just like was it in season 2, they knew they had to go save the world and stop their best friend NPC from dying and becoming a martyr against a false god that had been corrupted and blah blah blah, all this like heavy fantasy shit.
Hmm.
And in the process of doing that, they were kind of allowed to wander, and they found a traveling theater production, and they got to improvise an entire play with no script. We got a few gets from the audience or gets from the
Mhm.
players, and then they had to do that play with no script, no lines, and they had a blast improvising that. They spun off and went to a city for like 5 or 6 episodes, getting involved with like neo-industrialization politics and
Hmm.
the bad guys. It was totally not all related. And the point I'm getting at here is that when you're Dimension 20 and you have 7 paid actors with years of improv comedic experience and an entire crew of people
Yeah.
editing your performances, they're cutting everything down to a linear, sensical track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that's meant to be small, like the candy one, which was meant to be 5 episodes. It's silly. The plot is very thin, but we are going to build on it until it ends in 5 episodes, getting to the big bad. And they're all on board because they know it's a production and they can do that. With Critical Role, to give themselves all the time in the world so they can do things like 16 shopping episodes and still go fight God, they have 143 episodes for season 2, so they can give themselves the time and freedom. And it really comes down to what you as a production company have the energy and freedom to do. Because I find 20 episodes of a focused, back-to-back narrative, all that does is just force story progression with no joy.
Yeah,
it's like I'm going from A to Q because I have to, instead of I'm going to A to Q because D was boring, but F was fun. And that's why I feel like sometimes 20 episode runs and 10 episode runs that are story focused lose some of the joy of the game.
That makes sense though. No, that definitely makes sense. Because like when you sorry.
No, you're good. Continue.
Because when you have, because I'm thinking of it like as also like you were saying, like if I'm watching a TV show and how the last season they rushed of one of my favorite shows, which is Gossip Girl. They rushed the last season, season 6.
That's so.
I love how Pluto's laughing at me right now. But and like you could tell because there was only 9 or 10 episodes and it wasn't that progression of like when it usually has 31 episodes. And you could tell the difference of like this felt rushed, the stories felt rushed, the characters felt rushed. So it's the same thing when you're playing, shooting a D&D episode or like Critical Role or like something big like that, or like what you guys do, like big different productions. It's like, it's the same thing. Like you don't want to rush your actors, playing because you want them to have that room to improv and like grow. And also it keeps the audience more like, into the show, into the, what they're watching when it is longer, because they're like, oh, I'm growing with that character. I feel their stories and stuff.
You need those filler episodes, man. That's what you need at the end of the day.
It's true. It's just like when you're watching a sitcom, or
as long as you don't get to the point of Naruto where it's like half filler, because that's a lot. But you definitely need those filler episodes, like, because they really help. They help also with character development. Just let the players play around and do silly shit, and you're gonna learn more about the characters than when they're actually focused trying to get the shit done.
Yeah. That's true.
Absolutely. And it can be hard too, because like what if like there's a development to the big bad evil guy, the BBG, that no one's paying attention to because you have to now like run screaming into the end of your season. So well, now all the stakes are being muddied because it's like, well, now we have stakes and we hate this person. So, but wait, what are their stakes? Like, well, if we actually had the freedom to explore that, you would learn X, Y, and Z. And I've seen this happen a lot in other games that only want to be 5 or 10 episodes where there is no story. There is a premise. There's a bunch of free improv. And then the last episode is just basically taking the mess and stitching it all together and presenting a story out of it. And it's like, that's one way. That's definitely a way. But you can't tell me that strong storytelling. That's like, at that point, go make an improv troupe, go make an improv troupe and then be like, we're the aristocrats at the very end of your, still fun, but it's less of a story and more of like just a performance, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. What would you say is like your like favorite part of like GMing? Like what's your,
So my theory is that especially after 2020, GMing became a customer service experience. Nice. As a GM, you are now a customer service agent of the table. I don't really like or agree with that, but I feel like that's kind of where the energy is going. So that being said, my favorite thing as a GM, besides world building and trying to like plan the story, and at this point, I've been doing it online for so long, it's basically becoming a TV producer. Yeah. My favorite thing is just giving the players a good time.
I like
if at the end of it, they're like, I had a really good time. I'm like, oh man, that's all I want you to do is have a good time.
Yeah, when you did your job as a GM if they're having fun.
Exactly. If they're feeling things, if they're having fun, if they're feeling pressure, if they're feeling stressed, scared, happy, laughing, horny, then I know I'm doing something right.
Right.
And if you can get all those feelings in like one episode, you're killing it.
Yes.
Oh, Pluto, that is my goal. Like one of these days, I will have people who are like, I was laughing, I was crying, I was horny, I was happy, I was horny, I was crying. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, we did Gondros, which is our like Danny Phantom inspired Monster Heart game, and I was totally expecting to have all the horny fun. We were all like, oh yeah, orgy by the end of this. And one of the characters, like we had a triple of characters, we had like a thruple friendship that was gonna is supposed to grow into something. And both times my character did some like did not thinking stuff in front of the one character. And the second time it happened, like it was at the party, they're like three of them were going off to do fun stuff, and my character was being involved, and I stopped to have a scene with them, and I went from like horny about to get into all this fun stuff to emotionally destroyed on camera. I was head down trying not to cry after that scene because it was so emotional. It was like I was not ready for this, and I just got punched in the heart. It was like holy shit. And like it's after like yeah, it's like it's a lot of emotion to write. Sometimes you get out of a game and like those emotions feel so fucking real. Not many people realize that. Like, even you,
Yeah.
babe, like you get into a character and like, damn, that shit sticks for a little bit afterwards. You gotta get some aftercare going. You gotta like go play a game, go watch some
Yeah,
like
definitely.
mindless stuff, go outside, do something. Cause like I've had games where I come out and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
remember I did this one acting scene on TikTok or whatever, and I was playing like the new Joker movie, like the new the Joker eternal.
The Joaquin Phoenix one.
Thank you. I can't remember the actor's name. Yeah, the scene where he was talking about like he was there with Murray and them on on set and talking about it was this big monologue speaking about how society did him wrong and he was going to shoot people up and all this and like the part is so crazy. I had to get so into the character that after I did the scene, I literally felt like I was insane because I felt like him in the moment. You know how you step into your character. I was like, whoa, I need to go do something. Like I'm having these weird thoughts. I need to like do something else because you get so into your characters, like it takes over for a second.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh yeah. I want to say I did that with God, there was some I can't remember what the game was. I was actually a player in this one, and my character was having basically called a crisis. They had to be upset about something and they had to have some reasons for it. And I forgot what it was. Drive me crazy now. But like I remember legitimately feeling the anxiety and the pain, and I'm like, oh, I got a little real there. Let's take a few
Mm-hmm.
seconds while we're not like the focus of the scene to just kind of come back to reality. We're good, recentered.
Yeah,
It's tough.
I totally did
It's
that.
tough.
I played in
it
a
is.
West March. It was all evil characters, and I made an evil like doctor who was like
Mm,
a
Mm.
serpent, the shifter one. So like a serpent based shifter. So he would heal with his venom and stuff. So it would actually, I would have like a whole percentage thing mechanically. So the healing did less than it normally would do with the roll, because it
mm,
actually burns you as it healed you. But he was so like mad scientist fives, wanting to like experiment on like enemies that we killed and like collecting samples and getting like very methodical. I had to stop playing that character. I did
yeah.
not like my
Wow, I didn't know
mindset that
that.
I had to get into to play that like that cold, like insane methodical doctor type. It was like
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't like
People,
myself after this game. I'm like I'm thinking some dark
Yeah.
shit. This is like oh, it was so heavy.
it's so frustrating because people think that there are minds out there that are superior to other minds. They
Mm-hmm.
legitimately believe this. They're like, oh, well, we can handle it because our minds are just tougher. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
all minds are squishy, dumb sponges that are easily destroyed. All of them. Hell, it
Yeah.
takes the right chemical or the wrong day,
Yeah.
and your think engine's all fucky wucky. Like the idea about like, oh, you're so easily broken, you're so easily fragile. It was like, no, because like they're already juggling 19 things that either you don't see or you don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm saying this to the point like it is all too easy to dive into a mentality for a character, whether you're acting or playing or whatever, and then start having those neural pathways start to get formed
Yeah.
in the chemistry of your brain. If you're playing a sociopathic doctor who doesn't feel the pain of humanity, only like the entitlement that you are allowed to play with it like a plaything for the sake of
Mhm.
curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
eventually your brain can easily go, oh yeah, humans are just data and variables. Who cares? They're just matter.
Yeah.
It's not their feelings. It's not the integrity of human philosophy. And next thing you know, you've lost yourself entirely, and you have to start
Yeah.
deprogramming yourself, which you did on accident. You know what I mean?
There's a reason
Yeah. And
psychology
it's
and
so true.
sociology are so huge because, sorry, I'll let you get to it in a second, but like those fields are so big because like the human mind, like you can, if you think a certain way for a certain while, it's going to stick. And it can change
Yeah.
like your whole thought processes and really get to you. So if you dive that deeply into a person, like most good RP, like you really have to be your character. And if you go in a certain way, like it can really affect you if you play that character for so long.
Yeah, and I mean that's true too because like all the acting classes I've taken, like improv and like character study and all that, like they teach you it's like method acting is becoming the character. And they've even told us like during classes, like after you play this character, like even if you're like doing a show or like a movie or whatever, like take a couple minutes to get back into your right mindset because a lot of actors even will say like big actors like Heath Ledger, like even Ashton Kutcher, all these people will say like Ashton Kutcher when he played the Butterfly Effect said his mind was messed up for like a month straight because that
Mm-hmm.
role was so like it really fucked with his mind that he said now he doesn't take roles like that because and like you were saying PJ, like I hate when people say like oh people are weak that's why they can't do that. No, we are all designed as humans, like the best actors, the best RPers, like the best people out there, even the nicest people are designed as humans. If we're playing a crazy role or a certain role that's going to affect us because there's certain roles that will affect us, our minds will break because in a sense like all acting is and like RP and everything is just bringing yourself to that character but going through things emotionally like that you've been through in the past and tying that to the character so it becomes a slippery slope when all these things are intertwined and then suddenly like you feel like whoa like who am I like because like you said our minds are fragile and we can that's why people snap so easily, like psychologically, because if you
Mm-hmm.
start believing you're something enough or a person enough, you will essentially become that way, which is why you have to be careful with it and like know what you can take on and what you can't take on. Like sometimes I play like high school roles, and sometimes in my mind I'm like, oh my God, I'm 18, but I'm not. But it's like because like you get so used to playing these roles that like, it's like little pieces of you that you play, or like when I play a crazy role, it's like, and then I want to watch horror and slasher films for a while. It's like I'm not like that, but it's like these roles, you just got to really be careful when it comes to acting, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about the method, the can't think of the full title, but let's just say method, is how much it is kind of a spin-off from the Stanislavski method
Yeah.
that old Stanley was just saying inform your choices with your real lived experience,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
make your choices your lived experience. And I think that's something we need to be mindful of, especially as role players, because bleed is so real. And a lot of the things that we struggle from are basically emotional fallacies of the crux of the whole thing. Because
Mm-hmm.
in order to feel good about role playing, you have to feel good. And
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel good? You have to feel genuine and organic, which means you now have to organically feel good about X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z, which is why like romantic role play some of the dangerous things out there, because in order for it to be good, it has to be real.
Yep.
And the
Yeah.
minute it is real is the minute it's a problem. And
Right.
I've known so many people who are like, "Will you get engaged in romantic role play with my character?" Nah, no. Why? Why would I trust you? Why would I trust you with that? But we'll talk about it. Bullshit. Look, the biggest lie anyone has ever said is, if you've done something wrong, I'll tell you. Show of hands, how many times has someone said that and then not said shit about
Yep.
something that was affecting them that
Right.
you did? It
Yeah.
never
Yeah,
happens.
that's you
Mhm.
that definitely plays into that because you cannot have romance at a table unless you trust that other person. Because even like role playing a character, like you're done to dive into that place with that person, you have to trust them just as if you would trust them in a natural relationship because you're gonna get into some deep ass shit in character. Even like it can
Yeah.
get intense, and like I feel like it ties in what you said. Like every good role play, you're either like everyone has said a good role play character. I feel is one thing. It's either like you're taking an aspect of yourself, whatever it is, a small aspect of yourself, and you're dialing that up, and you're diving through that lens to relate to your character. Or on
Mm-hmm.
the flip side of that, like there's a lot of queer people that play games because they want to explore stuff that they don't get to explore. So you're trying stuff out that you want to explore that you might not get to in your real life, but it's still the same thing. You're diving into that, and then you're informing your shit off of that. Like, so in order to really get invested in your character and map out that role play in an organic way, you're gonna get invested mentally, physically, emotionally. Like, you're gonna feel those emotions. Like, your body's gonna think you're doing this stuff. It's gonna sit real. Like, it's
Yeah.
like memories in real life can be just as real as memories in like stories and stuff. Like,
Well, 100%.
you can
Like,
think
Mhm.
back on that and just be like hit by emotions, and it was like, wait, that was a game. I'm good. It's
yeah,
okay.
like PJ, I don't know if he knows about the game we did that was off. It was offline, but I did a game with Pluto where it was called Flabbergasted, and
Mm,
I created my character based off of one of my shows, Jenny and Georgia. It was like a Marcus type character, so I played a guy because I like playing guy roles. It's just I don't know, I get more into it. So Justin, Pluto was a girl named Spencer in it, and like
everyone was flirting
Pluto
with
even
me,
wore the wig
PJ. I
for
was
it
the
and
pretty belle
everything.
of the ball.
Yeah, one of my costumes Pluto wore,
I
and it was
see it.
so
I see it. I see it.
Right.
right. And it was so weird, PJ, because obviously I know Pluto. I'm in love with Pluto. I'm married to Pluto, for goodness sakes.
Wait, we're
But during
married?
the game, but during the game, but would you stop? But during the game, when I was playing that Marcus type character, and Marcus had these feelings for Spencer, Pluto had the wig on. And then I remember I was so into my character that Pluto came back just like how they look now. And I just for a second was like, whoa, because in my mind I was picturing how this character looked. And it was so weird. I was so in game that I was like, you literally took your wig off. And I was thinking if you was like a girl, like a Spencer, and you come back and you just like shook me because
Yeah,
I was like,
I
oh, this
stepped
is
off to
Justin.
get food or something, I think, for a second. And the wig was like moving around in the wig was a process. And
That was funny.
I don't think however far I dive into stuff, I would ever grow my hair out because I do not envy girls for having long hair. That's sucks.
Yeah, it's
So
a lot
I
of
took
work.
it off, and everyone was just like
Yeah.
taken aback because they're like, "Oh shit, that's not who we've had in our head this whole time we've been playing this game." So
Yeah,
But
it was
y'all,
weird.
it's
And
it's
she got
kind of
so into
crazy though,
it.
because like people seem to forget, like when something changes drastically, even if it's a small drastic change, the mind is gonna reel from it because
Yeah.
we just had a pattern recognition switch very hard on us, especially immediately. You know,
Mhm.
everyone's like what was it? Sometimes I shave off my whole beard and then I go live. And I cannot tell you how funny it is to notice people looking at my face now that all of it's on display. It's like so weird looking. Yeah, you're allowed to have that reaction because brains are like, you're different now drastically than what I remember with no warning. I need to
Right.
process.
Right. Because it was just such a shift. It was like 1 minute, like you said, and then the next. And it wasn't just me, everybody at the table, like Alex and everybody was like, whoa, it's like we remembered, like, this is what Pluto looks like. But it was just,
I know I just looked so pretty that it just threw you off that Pluto was
oh my
back out of
God.
nowhere, and it
So
just
enchanting.
yeah, it was
So
so
enchanting.
alluring.
That's
Um,
what it
but yeah, I
was.
totally get that because like I feel like especially for players like you who don't play a lot, I love when
Yeah.
I can get that like investing into the game. Like
Mhm.
I told Jess, like I've never seen you invest in game. When I killed your family in that scene, you were
Yeah.
legitimately mad. Like you were
But
steaming in real life. You
I
felt
will.
like you're like my family. No, like you were freaking out, and it was great because
Mhm.
you were. I let you get invested in the rest of the campaign. You were 100% completely down, invested every episode. You wanted your revenge. You had the remainder of your family to take care of. You had all this responsibilities possibly
Yeah.
going to be on your shoulders now. You
Mhm.
were you
Well,
were done. You were
I
engaged.
I feel like it's that I don't it's not that I don't get invested because I've kind of realized this is about me. Like since I act, like I have to have a script and a character already in my head because that's kind of what I'm used to. So when I
Mhm.
play when I love playing based off of like a TV character from a show or something because I already know that character and I already know like how they are, how their emotions are. And I realized when I didn't get invested before, I was trying to create my own character. I had no like basis of what they look like. I had to like imaginatively like figure it out. And you would think I would be able to do that, but I think just by used to like having a
Mm-hmm.
script or having these characters in my head, I get invested into and it was you also Pluto with the game. I mean, you did a fabulous job. But it was also because I know that character. I used him from Gossip Girl, but I named him Thomas, but in the show his name's oh my God, not Marcus. I can't think right now. It's Max. So like I use that character and I know how he is. I try to play him,
Mhm.
So it's easier for me to get invested if I already know how that person is going to act and like I
Yeah.
can play that,
That makes sense. There is a lot of tools to help with that as a player. There is like
Yeah.
background, like there's a 5 4 3 2 1 thing I just got introduced recently to build out your
Yeah.
backstory. A lot of systems have backstory stuff in the system itself to build that out, and there's ways to really build out your character. Um, I think in some of our like early games when you played, we just kind of threw the sheet together and you just kind of went with it, and that was probably why you couldn't really attach yourself to the character
Yeah,
as much.
probably.
Yeah.
So
I think we're also touching on something that I think is very important when it comes to being, the game master and a player. It's a relationship there.
Yeah.
Is the players need to have, going back to organic a bit, organic stakes.
mhm.
And I don't mean like, oh, well, there's stakes because the world's at risk or because the MacGuffin is in danger. No, like a
Yeah.
personal thing that drives the character. And I think the problem with backstories is that it's informed, but it's abstract.
Yeah.
This is my backstory, but let's be real, doesn't fucking matter. It
Yeah.
doesn't. It's going to have no shape or impact unless it just becomes a point for the player to keep hammering home because they don't believe it. They don't feel it. It's just the reason they're there, but it's a vehicle.
Yeah.
And cars don't have feelings. I don't care what Pixar says. When you and I think it's so funny that players, I've been seeing the culture recently, players are now fighting against this technique of having things that you care about be taken away from you to give you a real stake, a real investment, a real personal
Yeah.
interaction with the world. Because when you do that kind of stuff, that's what it does. It's like, okay, now you as the player have a very real, living, organic reason to be here. And I
Yeah.
think instead of having the emotional maturity to read that, to ingest that, to discuss it, and then to use it, people are often like, this is giving me a negative feeling that's interacting with my power escape. And I don't like that cognitive dissonance. And I'm like, I get where you're coming from. You did not initially sign up for this kind of story.
Yeah.
But try to yes and that and find that now you get to tell the story your way. Now that death has happened, now that loss has happened, now you get to be the beautiful metaphor that you want in your own life about moving on past that hurt.
Yeah.
And so I commend you all for having that, for dealing with that, for living with that, and also, kind of recognizing that now that's happened, even though it was awkward and painful, it enriched your experience of the
Yeah.
product that you were doing
Definitely.
together.
Yeah, it definitely did. Cause like then I felt like, oh wow, now like you said, I had something as my character to fight for in a sense. So I was like, okay, now I gotta do this, now I gotta do this. I need to. It was like I was thinking like because when you get so into it, you think about it like as you. And I was like, I gotta save the rest of my family that's alive. I gotta have my character, save the day. And it gave me motivation because it was no longer just a character on the board with a backstory. It became like I'm watching a movie or a show and I want this character to like, survive and thrive. And you're right. It helped the story so much. Like, even though it sucked in the moment, like what Pluto did really helped because it helped me bring my character and essentially like to life.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
So I like that
the
you said
scene was
that.
cool. We did the little ball before the big like tourney thing, and your dad was there, and I knew you were like, okay, they have some shit going on. Let's see what they can do. Let's get you in a conversation. It went really wholesome. I was like, this is so
It,
nice.
it was
This
made
is
me
gonna be
cry a
so
little bit.
good. And Thomas was on a high when it happened too, because you won the joust. Like you killed the joust, and you won that shit.
Yeah.
You had that award. I think it was like some like position in the kingdom or some shit that you would have got. Too
Well, that's
bad
what
that
makes it
didn't
even
go
more
through,
fun.
right? But it helped. It got you even more
Yeah.
invested. It helped you. It helped. I feel like giving you such a high in the moment helped
Hmm.
bring you down
Oh
harder.
yeah, like a high
Such
and
a
a low.
nice shift there at the end, and then you guys are just fucking running because there's all this shit going on at the end of that.
That
So
emotional whiplash, my
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
yeah, exactly. Like it was like a high and a low in one. And I mean, think about all the great heroes in like DC and Marvel. That's like how their lives are.
yeah.
They have
I've
these
had this
big
discussion with you. Like
lows.
no superhero has a good backstory. None.
Yeah.
There's trouble in
I tried
almost
to think of
every
one, but
single
I
one.
can't.
You can't. You can't.
I
It's
can think
really
of
hard.
I can think of maybe one. This is debatable. Are you familiar with Booster Gold?
I am familiar with Booster Gold. Yes,
I don't
from
know.
the future comes back with all the technology to be a hero.
Oh, I don't know
Yeah.
who it is.
He's like a joke character in DC, pretty
I
much.
need to learn.
Yeah, I think his name is like John Michael Carter, and he is a in the future, in the far future, John Michael Carter is both an underwear model and a like very successful football player. He is
Oh,
supposed to be handsome, pretty, and rich, and he has won at life. He's so good. And the only thing is he gets a slight amount of like humbling because I think he like threw some football games for like mob money or something. And so he had a small fall of grace. But the thing is, Booster Gold is dumber than a bag of hammers. So
really?
he's dumb. He
Yeah,
is
it's
pretty
very
and he
dumb.
is
He's pretty
dumb.
but dumb. He's
Very
one of the original himbos,
God,
100%.
he really is. Oh my God. You're right, he is because he's all well intended. Like so he screws up, he washes out of football, he's too busy being rich and sad and pretty, and then he gets this cockamamie idea. It's like, well, for dopamine and ego, what if I get a bunch of super tech, which somehow he steals from a company? I don't know how he gets it, but he steals a bunch of awesome super tech. He goes back to our time period and starts becoming a superhero.
Wow.
Oftentimes, though, because there aren't as many threats as he anticipated, he has to kind of set up the problem so he can save it, kind of like Syndrome from
Oh,
The
yeah.
Incredibles. And Superman sees this. He figures out that this kid is just an idiot who's lying. And he's like, okay, well, now's your chance to really do the right thing. And let's actually go fight crime together. And Booster Gold's like, my redemption arc. And I'm like, you don't need redemption. You're fine. You're just an idiot.
Yeah, I think
You're
his trauma was just because
harmless.
he did a
That's
stupid
hilarious.
thing and then he decided to go completely off the edge with that. What he
Oh,
needed
I
to
love
do.
God. Yeah. He
funny.
just doubles down. I think the real time, and here's the real time he got trauma wasn't in his backstory. It was
Mhm.
when he lost his best friend, Ted Cord, which was like 30 years after the character's inception.
Mhm.
Now he's really got backstory stakes. And
Yep.
and the death of Ted Cord is kind of one of the like sticking points of the DC universe. Like Ted Cord, such a
Wow.
beautiful human, great friend, and good superhero, and he has to die because what that sacrifice calls
Mhm.
forth from people
Wow.
around him. And that's a really interesting, beautiful story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
the
want to
thing.
learn more. I need to learn more about them.
Yeah, that's the thing in any type of storytelling. Once there's a character who's not important to the actual main story, not a main character, not even a support character, but they're there and they're visible enough that the people love that character, he immediately becomes fuel to sacrifice or have something bad happen because it's such an easy character development
Oh,
tool.
yeah.
Seeing how
Yeah.
your character reacts to that situation, handles it, and then moves forward from there is just such an easy thing to throw out, whether it's in tabletop or movies or TV shows or anything. Honestly,
That's true. That's so true. Yeah.
I do have it on my list though to play a normal person in D&D or Pathfinder. I'm having a midlife crisis. I'm good. I have a family, job. I want to go on vacation and then just go on an
I
adventure.
Pluto, I wanna offer you because that's how my brain works. My brain is always creating, even though I have no energy. I want to offer you a chance to like. I'm not running it, but let's discuss this. A campaign where everyone is a retired whatever getting back into the game. We're all playing normal people, retired adventurers. We're all just nothing edgy, nothing cool, and we're just getting back into it because of whatever reason. 'Cause I had this character in my brain who was like a goblin, like maybe even a goblin gunslinger or a goblin inventor. Basically, Danny DeVito later in his life when all of his kids have grown up and they don't talk to him anymore, and he's all like, this goblin is going, I know what it's like to do your best and fail. You have the best of intentions, and sometimes they don't call you back, and you got to learn that that just happens. Failure is a part of life as much as it is success. So
I totally
critical
love that.
success, blow up a bomb. Here we go. Hey, I started blasted.
I love that.
That's my pitch.
I
That's
already
my elevator
got
pitch.
like maybe like a timeshare vacation package that all the players signed up for, not knowing it's like a bind in agreement for like a certain amount of time that they just have to be adventurers now.
That's awesome.
Totally not prepared for any of that. Oh my
Oh, we could
god.
even start at level 0. Like we've lost all of our adventurer levels because of, not
I
being in the
think
game
it'd
for
be
so
funnier
long.
not even to have them be adventurers, just have them just be normal people who's had normal lives. They can be whatever race or background or whatever they have, but they never had those class features. So like when they become adventurers, that's what the first couple sessions will figure out what class they're gonna end up rolling into based off their shit.
Okay, now I'm getting this kind of fun new idea. What if we do kind of like a Dungeons and Dads, but like it's just normal people that are like level 0 adventurers and they don't know it. And there's that meta knowledge of like, I'm just trying to go back to the timeshare, Karen. And it's like, well, you just took a level in Rogue, so you better break that lock. Oh God damn it. I think that could be something. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be
That's a
fun.
good idea.
Not me and
I
PJ
love
just
how y'all just
completely
came up with this
pitching a
so quick. You
campaign
guys are so
idea.
talented.
That's
Yeah, a bunch of
80% of GM and just having a conversation and being like, you know what?
Dude, man, I tell you, like being a GM, sitting room with other GMs and just having brainstorms is like every single two idiots in a room starting a podcast. No, you know what would be so different about our podcast? We're talking about true crimes, but we're drunk. I think that's what everyone does. No, but ours are gonna be better. Like it's the
I love
experience
that.
of many creatives. That's all I'm saying.
It
It's
helps
so
that
funny you
it helps
said
that I've
that.
also not met a neurotypical GM yet. Like I have not met one yet, and I feel like that makes it even worse when you put a bunch of us together because we have a million different things in our head, and then we just throw it all
Yep.
at each other.
And I love that you said the podcast thing because it was so funny when we thought about doing this podcast. I was like, we're gonna make our slogan like we talk about real shit on here. It's gonna be different.
Yeah, I was like, there's 20 podcasts that say that. Like, they all say
Yeah.
they talk about real shit.
The selling point of every podcast is we're not like every other podcast. And
Exactly.
spoilers, they're like every podcast.
I was like, let's just keep it simple.
Yeah.
We're a couple that's talking about acting for you, tabletop for me, and just somehow meshing it the fuck together and seeing
They
how
kind
it
of
goes.
go hand in hand in a way.
They
though.
do.
A lot
I mean,
of parts of
acting and
tabletop
tabletop,
is
it's
acting,
both
a lot of
improv and being a
Yeah.
character and telling a story at the end of the day. It's a lot of the same type of stuff,
Exactly.
just different mediums.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a spectrum because it absolutely does play back into each other, but I feel
Mhm.
like it works stronger when you take it from the acting perspective and dial it into role play because you
Yeah.
understand the importance of what you're doing as well as what everyone else is doing and how to make that cohesive versus starting off in a role play perspective, which can be sometimes largely more center focused, and then shooting that into a way more scripted collaborative effort like acting is.
Mhm.
Because like if you have an emotional moment in an acting piece, you have to be responsible for that. And sometimes with role play, there's so much kind of bubble wrap put around that medium that it's like if you have an emotional moment that can be taken out of context and hurt a lot of people, as we've seen on social media, well, now it's like, well, who's really responsible? Because they're having the moments we need to protect them, but they hurt these people, so we need to protect them. And it gets this ugly like war of who's wrong and
Yeah.
who's right when really just everyone has feelings because we're people.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And no, I agree. I agree. Cause like me, like being an actress, like when you talk about like, setting up like the characters and stuff, I think about it like, oh, this is the script and this and this. And like when I talked to Pluto about that too, Pluto's like, wow, it is like acting, you kind of like realize it, like how what you're doing is acting. It all kind of ties into each other. But like you said, PJ, like coming from the other perspective, it can be harder for people to see that and like experience that kind of thing. So I like
Absolutely.
that.
Okay, awesome. But I think we are a little over on time, but that's fine.
Oh,
We
really?
had a fun time babbling, which is always the most fun podcast episodes when I don't have to read a list of questions.
Yes, we're not
Um,
like other podcasts.
but
We're not like every other podcast. This one's about Pathfinder.
this one's about real shit.
We didn't talk about Pathfinder.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about real shit. That's what we did.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. Throw all the gang
That's
signs
hot.
up. But with that, PJ, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on the interweb and anything you have going on that you want to talk about?
Absolutely. All right. So my name is PJ McGaw. You can find me all over the internet at pj.mcgaw, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm no longer on the TikToks, so don't go looking for me there. You can also find the amazing Nat20 Productions on Twitch at Nat20 Productions Official, on our YouTube, Nat20 Prods, and catch up with the 2 seasons of Edge of Legend, as well as over 270 other episodes and shows we do. We've been very prolific. Jump in and see what you like. I am now in pre-production for 3 projects. One, Edge of Legends Season 3 is going to be starting up sometime in June. So we got like a few months to put that together. I'll be working with something for Q Times. If you like, shall we say, Guardians of the Galaxy and some Firefly and Starfinder and heists and cowboys, I have a little project coming down the pike, which should be starting sometime in early May, and we'll let you know when that's coming out. And last but
Awesome.
not least, we've been working on a very exciting collaboration with Nat20 Productions to happen sometime around, I think, July or August of this year. And all I'm going to say is, you best get ready to rumble. But until then, I cannot wait to show you more and tell you more. And I can't wait to see Pluto again because I love seeing you.
Love seeing you too,
And
man.
I hope to see you there. Same Nat time, same Nat channel. I love you, everyone. Thank you for listening to me ramble.
Awesome. And then, as always, you can find me everywhere on social media at Pluto Cleric, everywhere there is to be. And when I'm not on my own stuff, I'm typically over at the Initiative Order. So also go follow there and play online and offline with a bunch of cool people. And then, babe, you want to go plug your stuff?
Yep, you guys can find me everywhere on Just Being Jin. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and at Twitter as well. But Twitter's more like a personal thing; it's not really promoting anything. And then I also have a Facebook page, Just Being Jin, where I post my acting reels on that. Have some fun collabs coming up with some of my acting friends. So yeah, definitely check it out. And also, if you're an actor as well and you want to like share your stuff with me, I'd be happy to look at it. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, with that, we will see you guys next week. PJ, thanks for joining us again, and everyone have a good night.
Thank you guys. Love you.